The revelation was so sudden that many fans struggled to believe their own ears. Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, spoke with an unsettling honesty about Jimin's current state, leaving the global ARMY community shaken and emotionally devastated. What did he mean when he suggested that Jimin's condition was not what the public had assumed? Why did Jungkook decide to speak at this moment? And what deeper reality is hidden behind his carefully chosen words? These questions now linger heavily across fan communities, creating an atmosphere of suspense and worry that refuses to fade. Jimin, known not only for his artistry but also for his resilience, has long been celebrated as a figure of strength and perseverance. His stage presence, his voice, and his emotional transparency have made him one of the most beloved members of BTS. Yet Jungkook's sudden remarks hinted at something more fragile, something concealed beneath the surface of Jimin's bright performances and reassuring smiles. Was this a cry for help disguised within the polished image of an idol? Or was it Jungkook's way of ensuring that fans finally knew the truth about a member they hold so dear? The weight of Jungkook's confession carried an undeniable sense of urgency. Observers noted the tremor in his tone and the choice of words that seemed meticulously restrained, as though he wanted to reveal much more but was bound by circumstances that prevented him from speaking openly. This created a ripple of speculation. Was Jimin facing an emotional battle, a physical struggle, or perhaps both? The silence that followed Jungkook's statement was almost louder than his words, and armies across the globe found themselves searching for clues in every detail, every pause, every subtle shift in expression. For years, Jimin has been regarded as a professional who pushes his body beyond its limits, often rehearsing until exhaustion and maintaining an image of tireless dedication. Fans have witnessed his injuries on stage, his visible discomfort during performances, yet his determination to continue has often overshadowed the severity of his condition. Jungkook's recent revelation reignites these memories, forcing fans to reconsider moments when Jimin's pain may have been hidden behind forced smiles and graceful movements. Could it be that the image of stability was only a carefully maintained facade, and the truth has always been more complex than what fans were allowed to see? What makes this revelation even more devastating is the bond between Jungkook and Jimin. Their relationship has been built on years of shared struggles, triumphs, and mutual understanding. For Jungkook to step forward and hint at a deeper issue is not something to be taken lightly. It suggests that what Jimin is experiencing has reached a point where silence is no longer an option, where concern outweighs the desire to protect his privacy. This act of speaking up, while shocking, demonstrates a brotherly care that transcends the boundaries of performance and professionalism. Yet it also leaves armies with a haunting question. If Jungkook felt compelled to reveal this, just how serious is the reality behind Jimin's condition? The speculation among fans has become intense. Some point toward Jimin's recurring struggles with physical injuries, recalling moments when he visibly limped or clutched his body during live shows. Others believe Jungkook was hinting at an emotional toll, one that comes from years of relentless schedules, public scrutiny, and the burden of living up to immense expectations. Jimin has previously spoken about the psychological challenges of maintaining perfection, and Jungkook's words seem to echo those very confessions. The idea that Jimin may once again be facing those invisible battles sends a wave of sorrow and empathy through the fanbase. Adding to the gravity of this situation is the timing. BTS members are each navigating individual paths while fulfilling mandatory military service, and the distance from fans has created an atmosphere of longing and uncertainty. For Jungkook to speak about Jimin now, at a time when direct communication from the members is limited, amplifies the shock. It places ARMY in a position of helplessness, forced to process the information without the possibility of immediate clarification or reassurance from Jimin himself. The silence surrounding his condition becomes a void filled with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. The emotional reaction among fans has been overwhelming. Social media platforms erupted with messages of concern, sorrow, and solidarity. Many expressed heartbreak at the thought of Jimin quietly enduring struggles that fans could not see. Some shared personal experiences, relating Jimin's hidden battles to their own, creating a global wave of empathy that transcended language and culture. The collective grief was not merely about the uncertainty of Jimin's condition, but also about the realization that even the brightest stars may suffer in silence, their pain invisible to the world until someone close decides to reveal the truth. Jungkook's decision to speak reflects a moment of raw humanity rarely witnessed in the tightly managed world of global superstars. It dismantles the illusion of invincibility that often surrounds idols and instead exposes the fragility that exists behind closed doors. For ARMY, this revelation is not just news. It is a reminder that their idols are human, subject to the same vulnerabilities, exhaustion, and emotional strain as anyone else. And in this recognition comes a powerful sense of responsibility to support, to protect, and to understand rather than demand. Still, the mystery remains. What exactly is Jimin going through right now? Jungkook's words were enough to unsettle the global fandom, yet they were not detailed enough to provide clear answers. Was this intentional, a way to respect Jimin's privacy while still acknowledging his struggle? Or was it an unplanned slip, a moment where Jungkook's worry overcame his restraint? Either way, the impact has been profound, and the unanswered questions continue to fuel both anxiety and compassion among millions. As the global community waits for further clarity, one undeniable truth emerges. The love for Jimin has only grown stronger. Fans rally with messages of encouragement, artwork, and personal letters, expressing their unwavering support and hoping that their voices reach him in his most difficult moments. This collective response reflects the deep bond between BTS and ARMY, a bond built not just on music but on shared emotions, struggles, and the willingness to stand together through uncertainty. The story of Jimin's current condition is not yet fully told, and perhaps it never will be revealed in complete detail. But Jungkook's revelation has already changed the narrative, forcing fans to confront the reality that even the strongest figures can carry invisible burdens. It is a sobering reminder of the sacrifices made by those who dedicate their lives to art and performance, and it leaves fans with a chilling question that continues to echo. What exactly happened to Jimin, and why was now the moment Jungkook chose to reveal it? Until more is known, the world can only watch, wait, and hope. What lies beneath Jimin's resilience may be a story of pain, but it is also one of courage. And in Jungkook's revelation, painful though it may be, there lies a silent plea for understanding, for empathy, and for the recognition that even those who seem untouchable need care, compassion, and time to heal. The weight of this moment cannot be overstated. Jungkook's revelation has left the global fanbase suspended in a state of anxiety, and the questions it raises are relentless. Why now? Why did he feel compelled to draw attention to Jimin's true condition rather than maintaining the silence that has so often surrounded personal struggles within the group? The very timing of this disclosure intensifies the drama, as ARMY is forced to confront the reality that something significant is happening behind the scenes, something that cannot simply be dismissed as routine fatigue or the natural pressure of stardom. Throughout BTS's history, Jimin has been celebrated as the embodiment of endurance. His artistry is inseparable from his discipline, his pain often hidden beneath an unshakable determination to deliver flawless performances. But behind those graceful movements and unwavering smiles lies a history of strain. Fans recall the haunting images of him collapsing backstage, the moments when he pushed through injuries rather than disappointing audiences, and the subtle admissions he has made in the past about battling self-doubt and emotional exhaustion. Each memory now resurfaces with a sharper sting, reframed by Jungkook's words that suggest the cost of this resilience may be heavier than fans ever imagined. The intensity of ARMY's reaction reveals how deeply they are connected to Jimin, not just as an idol but as a human being whose vulnerability mirrors their own. Messages pour in from every corner of the world, expressing solidarity and grief, but also an urgent plea for him to prioritize his health above all else. This is not the reaction of a fandom demanding more music or performances. It is the cry of millions who wish only for the well-being of someone who has given them strength through his voice and presence. The irony is unavoidable. The same fans who once drew energy from Jimin's determination are now offering their own in hopes of carrying him through whatever struggle he faces. The silence from Jimin himself is deafening. In that silence, fans read volumes. Perhaps his condition is too delicate to be shared openly, or perhaps he wishes to shield ARMY from the raw weight of his reality. Jungkook's revelation, therefore, becomes not just a statement, but a bridge between Jimin's private suffering and the public's concern. The shock surrounding Jungkook's remarks about Jimin has not diminished. Instead, it has deepened into a complex web of speculation, emotion, and doubt. Fans, observers, and media consumers alike are now forced into a position that demands not only empathy, but also critical thought. Was this moment of disclosure a genuine expression of concern from one member to another, or was it, perhaps, a carefully orchestrated instance designed to attract attention and stir the global fanbase into heightened emotional engagement? The gravity of this question is immense, and it challenges every reader to confront their own position in the increasingly blurred line between truth and spectacle. If Jungkook's words are to be taken at face value, then Jimin's current state may be far more fragile than the polished image presented to the public. Yet how certain can anyone be of such an interpretation when the information available originates largely from platforms notorious for their lack of accountability, such as TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter? Can these channels, driven by algorithms that prioritize virality over verification, ever truly serve as reliable conduits of truth? Or are they, in fact, the breeding grounds of sensational narratives designed to captivate attention at the expense of accuracy? It is here that the emotional power of the story must be questioned. Why did Jungkook's statement resonate so profoundly with millions? Is it because it revealed a hidden truth long suspected by fans who have watched Jimin's physical and emotional struggles unfold over the years? Or is it because audiences are predisposed to embrace narratives of suffering and sacrifice, finding in them a reflection of their own unspoken fears and vulnerabilities? If the latter is true, then to what extent is this narrative less about Jimin's actual condition and more about the human desire to consume stories that validate our anxieties? The emotional reaction of ARMY cannot be underestimated. Yet one must ask, did this reaction emerge solely from a place of empathy, or was it also fueled by the dramatic framing of Jungkook's revelation? When fans express grief, solidarity, and unconditional love, are they responding to reality or to an image constructed by words that may not have revealed the full truth? This tension between genuine concern and manipulated perception lies at the heart of the issue. And it raises a haunting possibility. What if the pain felt by millions across the globe has been deliberately provoked? Their tears elicited not by fact but by fabrication, skepticism, in this context, becomes not merely an option but a necessity. How often has the world witnessed stories that captured public imagination, only to later be revealed as incomplete, exaggerated, or entirely false? How many times have viral narratives taken precedence over verifiable truths, leaving audiences emotionally invested in illusions? Can ARMY afford to suspend disbelief without risking complicity in perpetuating the very system of sensationalism that exploits both idols and fans alike? The question of authenticity looms larger with every passing hour. If Jimin is indeed suffering, then Jungkook's words serve as a plea for compassion. But if Jimin's condition has been overstated or misinterpreted, then what responsibility do fans bear in spreading or amplifying such narratives? Does sharing, reacting, and mourning without verification contribute to the distortion of truth? And more importantly, does it diminish the gravity of real struggles that deserve attention and support? One must also examine the mechanisms through which this story proliferates. TikTok edits that loop Jungkook's words, Twitter threads that dissect every gesture, YouTube commentaries that speculate endlessly. Are these tools of awareness or instruments of distortion? Do they provide clarity, or do they fuel confusion by amplifying emotion without evidence? Can the truth about Jimin's condition ever emerge through platforms designed to reward speed and virality over careful fact-checking? Or will the story remain forever entangled in layers of speculation, never reaching resolution? The responsibility, therefore, shifts to the audience. What does it mean to be an informed supporter, a responsible fan, or even a conscious consumer of media? Should one immediately embrace narratives that confirm pre-existing suspicions about idols' suffering, or should one adopt a posture of deliberate hesitation, asking at every turn, is this real? Or am I being manipulated? Can empathy coexist with skepticism, or are the two perpetually at odds in a world where information is consumed in fragments and amplified without scrutiny? Consider also the power dynamics at play. When an idol's private struggles become the subject of public discourse, who truly benefits? Is it the fans, who feel closer to their idol by participating in the collective mourning? Is it the media platforms, whose algorithms thrive on the emotional intensity of viral content? Or is it the industry itself, which may, intentionally or otherwise, capitalize on the narrative of suffering to strengthen the bond between idols and their audience? If the latter is true, then how should fans interpret Jungkook's words? As a personal revelation, or as a fragment of a larger, orchestrated design? Such questions are not meant to strip away the sincerity of fan concern, but to sharpen it, to transform blind empathy into informed solidarity. Would Jimin truly want his supporters to react with uncritical acceptance, or would he prefer them to demand truth, to resist manipulation, and to offer support grounded not in speculation but in reality? Is the greatest form of love the unquestioning belief in every narrative, or the willingness to protect him from the weight of exaggerated stories that may harm more than they heal? The urgency of this reflection lies not only in Jimin's case, but in the broader culture of celebrity and media consumption. Every viral story, whether about health, emotion, or personal struggle, forces audiences into a moral position. Do we consume it passively, allowing our emotions to be directed by unseen hands, or do we resist, insisting upon truth even when it is uncomfortable, incomplete, or less dramatic than the narrative being offered? In the case of Jimin, the choice is clear. ARMY must decide whether to continue amplifying a story that remains unverified, or to pause, reflect, and demand the respect of truth for both the idol and the fans who love him. So the question remains, and it is one that demands to be asked directly of every reader. Do you truly believe that Jungkook's revelation was an unfiltered expression of concern? Or do you suspect that it was part of a larger cycle of narratives designed to captivate attention? Do you trust the platforms through which you receive this information, or do you recognize that their very structure may encourage distortion and exaggeration? And most importantly, what will you choose to do with this uncertainty? Surrender to it, or confront it with critical reflection? Until definitive clarity emerges, the story of Jimin's condition remains suspended between truth and speculation. It may indeed reflect a painful reality, or it may be a narrative amplified beyond recognition by the machinery of media and fandom. The responsibility of discerning the difference rests with the audience. And perhaps the most critical question of all is not about Jimin or Jungkook, but about us. In a world where emotion can be manipulated and truth obscured, will we remain passive consumers of spectacle, or will we rise to the challenge of skepticism, reflection, and the pursuit of what is real? Every unfolding detail surrounding Jungkook's remarks about Jimin has now become part of a larger conversation that extends far beyond the boundaries of a single fandom. The very essence of this moment forces us to reflect not only on the fragile humanity of the artists we admire, but also on the integrity of the information we consume. Should we, as readers and observers, allow ourselves to be moved entirely by the emotional gravity of the story, Or should we restrain our reactions until evidence and verification provide the clarity that emotion alone cannot? This tension sits at the heart of the debate, and it is one that demands both seriousness and honesty. Consider how quickly the narrative spread across digital platforms, fueled by algorithms that reward speed and intensity over careful reflection. Within hours, Jungkook's words had been clipped, shared, and analyzed in fragments that often stripped them of context. How can we trust an interpretation built upon fragments when the complete picture remains elusive? Is it possible that the emotional devastation experienced by fans was amplified not by the truth of the situation but by the mechanics of virality itself? If so, more responsibility lies with each of us to resist that cycle and insist upon accuracy before reaction. The broader implication is striking. If this story about Jimin can so easily ignite global discourse without verification, what does it reveal about the power of narrative in our current age? Are we, perhaps unconsciously, participating in a system that thrives on our willingness to believe first and question later? And if that is the case, are we complicit in perpetuating a culture where idols' personal struggles become fodder for spectacle rather than opportunities for genuine empathy and measured support? At its core, the dilemma is not simply about whether Jimin is truly suffering in the ways implied. It is about whether we, as consumers of media, are prepared to distinguish between reality and fabrication, between compassion and sensationalism. Would true loyalty to an artist mean believing every rumor and reacting with unrestrained emotion, or would it mean standing firm in skepticism? The magnitude of the debate surrounding Jungkook's revelation about Jimin cannot be measured merely by the emotional responses it has provoked. It must also be evaluated through the lens of critical analysis, ethical responsibility, and the very nature of truth in an era dominated by digital platforms. The story has traveled across continents in a matter of hours, gathering momentum not because it was thoroughly verified, but because it was emotionally compelling. Does this fact not raise urgent questions about our collective vulnerability to narratives that thrive on ambiguity? If the truth of Jimin's condition remains uncertain, then why has the world already reached conclusions that shape public perception? We must confront the possibility that this narrative has been shaped less by reality and more by the forces of amplification that govern modern media. On TikTok, fragments of Jungkook's statements circulate with dramatic background music, stripped of nuance. On Twitter, speculation multiplies rapidly, fueled by threads that blend fact with conjecture. On YouTube, commentators analyze expressions, tones, and pauses as if they were evidence in a trial. Can any of these fragmented interpretations truly capture the gravity of Jungkook's words, or are they instead constructing an alternate reality in which audiences feel closer to the truth, while in fact drifting further away? The issue is not only about Jimin's possible suffering. It is also about how narratives of suffering are consumed. Why do we, as audiences, gravitate so powerfully towards stories of pain? Is it because they validate our own struggles? Is it because they humanize the idols we admire, collapsing the distance between celebrity and fan? Or is it because they satisfy a deeper craving for drama, tension, and catharsis that has always fueled storytelling, regardless of accuracy? If the latter holds true, then what does that reveal about the moral consequences of our engagement with such stories? Are we truly supporting Jimin, or are we participating in a cycle that commodifies his struggles for emotional consumption? This leads us to the critical question of responsibility. If fans share and amplify unverified stories about Jimin, are they offering support, or are they unintentionally deepening his burden? If the story is exaggerated or manipulated, does the spread of such narratives create an environment where truth becomes secondary to sensation? In this sense, the army faces an ethical dilemma: to react instinctively with emotion, or to pause and demand verification before contributing to the echo chamber of speculation. Which response is the more authentic form of loyalty? Which one safeguards Jimin rather than exposing him further to the weight of distorted narratives? Another pressing dimension concerns the intent behind Jungkook's words. If his statement was indeed a raw and honest confession, then it must be treated with solemnity and respect. Yet, if it was spoken ambiguously or under circumstances where interpretation could be easily distorted, what does that say about the dynamics of communication between idols and fans? Should idols be expected to clarify every nuance? Or should fans learn to exercise restraint rather than constructing elaborate narratives from fragments? Furthermore, if there exists even a possibility that his words were magnified by media systems seeking attention, more responsibilities fall upon us to separate sincerity from spectacle. The conversation also forces us to reflect on our trust in media ecosystems. How often have viral stories turned out to be hoaxes, exaggerated claims, or strategically constructed dramas? Why, then, are we so willing to suspend skepticism in this case? Is it because the emotional connection to BTS and to Jimin overrides our rational instincts? Or is it because the machinery of virality has trained us to react instantly without waiting for evidence? If we cannot resist this impulse here, what does that reveal about our readiness to confront misinformation in broader contexts, outside of entertainment and fandom?